Yeah, so that mansion future me bought me was kind of a scam. When I got there, I knocked on the door and no one answered, and then I thought,
oh yes, this is my mansion, so I can walk in.
And then I walked in, and when I did, I was inside a Wendy's. So what did we learn? Nothing. What do I do now, though? I don't have a mansion or a Wendy's. Might as well. God, I said no ketchup. Luigi's Mansion is a game that I adore. Seriously, there's few games out there that I am this nostalgic for. Back in the mid-2000s, I would play this game so much that I would actually time myself and see if I beat the game faster. So, essentially, I was speedrunning it at a time when speedrunning wasn't really a thing. To this day, I still distinctly remember the day I first heard of it. It was early 2005, I want to say around April, the day of my second ever dentist appointment, wherein they ripped out 5 teeth from my face all at once. Why yes, it was as painful as it sounds. I couldn't eat, I could barely speak, so we went to this restaurant that has since shut down. While I was having my plantain soup a half spoonful at a time, my cousin tells me about this game based on Luigi having a mansion, and that it was on the GameCube. I look at him, and on the paper I used to communicate, I wrote, "What is a GameCube?" The rest, as they say, whoever they are, is history. That day, I learned that not every game had to be a movie licensed game. A lesson that took me too many years to learn. By that time, Luigi's Mansion had been out for some 4 years, being a launch title for the GameCube. Yes, something about the GameCube starting with a Luigi game and not a Mario game that would come later. Something about Luigi's Mansion being so much different from the wider Mario franchise that we've all heard that at least 100 times already. So I am just gonna acknowledge it and move on.
Hello?
Okay, yeah, this game is very different. Such a tonal shift. Every Mario game starts out cheerful and light. Meanwhile, Luigi's out here walking through the forest of death at night while some ravens look at him ominously. Even the menu is creepy, for a 5-year-old anyway. Or for me today. Now, one of the things I want to make clear from the outset is that aside from how much I love the game, when I first played it back in the mid-2000s, I didn't speak any English. I didn't know what was happening because I couldn't understand it. However, one thing remains the same. Even after watching the little movie, I still don't know what a Pikmin is. I'm sorry. So what's Luigi's Mansion about? Is it about Luigi saying it's Luigi's Mansioning time and Luigi's Mansion's all over those guys? I said that. I wrote that. That came out of my mouth, didn't it? One day, Luigi was randomly given a mansion. Our situation seemed to be starting out similarly. But instead of the mansion being a Wendy's, it's something better. A mansion filled with ghosts. So, you know what that means. My name is Melly Mel Mel. I could never play scary games until I was forced to for internet fame, so I started playing them for the entertainment of others. I am joined by nobody because I am alone in my room. There's something in there.
You have reached your final destination, hell. But so much worse.
Now I play these scary games and spend an entire night unable to sleep because of the fear. Fear. More fear. I'm very afraid. I'm at my limit. These are my Melly adventures. So, starting the game, Luigi enters his mansion and is scared by a ghost on the second floor. But right before the ghost turns Luigi into one of its own, we meet the old man baby, Professor Egad. The professor is a scientist and inventor, and he's the one responsible for creating the Poltergust 3000 as well as the Game Boy Horror. Very clever. After getting both items, Luigi is free to explore the mansion, or what's available anyway. Already I'm feeling so nostalgic. In the foyer is a Toad, and they act as a sort of save point. Toads, along with another common Mario character that comes in later, are the only way to save the game. The main door directly in front is closed and will hurt you if you touch it. So up we go to the room where Luigi almost met the Castlevania Reaper, and we're given our first real taste of how the game will work. When a ghost shows up, Luigi screams in fear and stops moving. Trust me, this gets annoying when you're walking long distances. To catch the ghost, you need to flash it with your flashlight, and this will show a number at the bottom of the ghost. That number is the ghost's HP, if you will, and each one has a predetermined amount, for better or worse. Within a fairly tight window after stunning them, you need to start the suck using the Poltergust. If you start it too late, or let go because you thought you started it too late when you didn't, the ghost will go away but not despawn. It'll come back soon enough with the same quote-unquote damage already dealt. I know that explanation is more long-winded than it should be for something so simple, but please bear with me. Once the ghost is on the line, it'll try to run from Luigi with such force that Luigi himself will be pulled in its direction. And this forced movement is the key to understanding how capturing the ghost works. Just holding down the suck button won't work. You need to pull the ghost back, sort of like fishing. This is the magic of the quote-unquote combat in Luigi's Mansion. Knowing when to pull the ghost and when to let go of the stick to move and avoid danger. Oftentimes you'll have more than one ghost on screen, and the ones that aren't on the hook will move around and attack you. And if they do, you'll take damage, yeah, but the ghost you're working on capturing will be let go, so you need to balance the DPS and evasion. It forces you to choose between, do I risk getting hit and take the ghost down to 0, or do I let the ghost move me at the risk of timing out the vacuum? It's interesting, at least to me, because neither choice is better or worse than the other. Really, it's up to you, your playstyle, and the current situation. These first few ghosts are easy to deal with, low HP, predictable moves. Really, they're here for you to learn the very basic maneuvers. It gets a little bit more complicated once more ghost types get involved. So far we've seen just 2 of them, the gold ghost and the purple puncher. Even though it's pink, but whatever. Later on you get more ghosts thrown at you like the blue twirler that slimes the ground, the horrifying grabbing ghost that I hate. Ghost guys, literally just dead shy guys. The annoying purple bomber that hangs from the roof and laughs, and the worst one by far, the trash can ghost. It throws banana peels that make you slip and take damage, so that whole thing about choosing whether or not to move while you're fighting the ghost, yeah, that all goes out the window and you need to focus entirely on not slipping on the bananas. There's a few more like the little mice and bats, but those don't really matter aside from being a nuisance. Yes, I had to research this. No, I did not know any of those names, nor did I know they had names. Though these ghosts aren't really important aside from the random spawning money ghosts. Every time you clear a room of ghosts, a chest appears, either giving you exorbitant amounts of money and diamonds and stuff, some very important items I'll discuss later, or a key to the next room. Once you finish those first few rooms, you're given a key to the left hallway. And here is when the game truly begins. Because Luigi's Mansion isn't just about getting rid of those generic little ghosts, it's kind of an explorative boss rush. Within each main area of the mansion is a set of bigger ghosts called portrait ghosts. These are the bosses of the game, and they're the ones you're after. Each one is uniquely designed, and they all have a gimmick to catch them, ranging from actual environmental puzzles to just waiting. This is one of the greatest strengths of this game, but it's also one of its biggest weaknesses, because not all Portrait Ghost gimmicks are made equal, such as demonstrated within the first 3 encounters. Once you open the left hallway, there's one major thing you should start to notice. This mansion is weird. There's fake doors, chandeliers randomly fall on you, mirrors that spin you around, surprisingly few bathrooms, rooms that aren't there but they are. It's very weird. But the weirdest thing to me anyway is that being such a unique game and such a beloved IP, Nintendo really never made it into a series. They never made a sequel on 3DS or a third game on Switch maybe, or a remake of the first game on 3DS with a Goo clone of Luigi. I don't know, that's always been weird to me. The first 3 Portrait Ghosts you encounter each have a different gimmick to fight them. First off is Neville in his study. All he does is read, and whenever he yawns, his heart gets exposed. Insert Kingdom Hearts joke here. This is one of those you just have to wait ghosts. Second is Lydia. Opening her curtains reveals her window is broken and lets in strong winds, which she doesn't appreciate, showing you there may be times where you need to manipulate the objects or environment in any given room. These 2 also teach you the other major mechanic when fighting Portrait Ghosts. When damaging the ghosts, they'll drop pearls of varying size based on how you do. The more damage dealt, the bigger the pearls they drop. But how do you damage the ghost more? Pulling the stick back only does so much. Well, the way to do more damage is to break the left stick. You shouldn't just hold the left stick in the opposite direction of the ghost. Instead, you should, and I don't even know how to explain this, wiggle the left stick in the general opposite direction relatively quickly. I find that this does more damage and makes quick turns from the ghost more manageable. And maybe it's true because I tend to get way more pearls by doing it, so I don't know. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. I'm sure someone out there very nicely will let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. Anyway, next up is the first big boss of the game, Chauncey. A ghost baby. A terrifying ghost baby. A gigantic, terrifying ghost baby. Well, he's not gigantic, you know what I mean. The fear in Luigi's scream when he sees Chauncey is the same fear I feel when seeing something that doesn't exist. Ah! Beating Chauncey gives you the first big key. These open the way to the next area of the mansion. They're basically the level end keys. Before we can proceed though, Professor Egad calls us back to his lab and introduces us to the Ghost Portraitificationizer, a massive machine that will turn portrait ghosts into, well, portraits. What a surprise, right? I always loved watching the sequence when I was young. It's so quick and active and colorful. Even today, it's great. At the end, we're shown a portrait of each ghost and how much money and treasure you've collected thus far. And soon enough, we're thrown back into the mansion, this time with a lot more to explore. I forgot to mention, after catching the portrait ghost, going into the Z menu lets you check each one's name and read their Pokédex entry. Nothing fancy, just some flavor text. But some of these are gold. Despite playing moving melodies, she has a surly disposition. Oddly enough, she loves video games. Same dude. Her close connection to the spirit world lets her see nearly 49 days into the future. I wonder where I'll be in 49 days. No, scratch that. I don't want to know. He cries loudly and never sleeps through the night. But since he was born a oh... Well, that got dark. Okay, let's just get it out of the way. Luigi's Mansion is a kid-friendly version of Resident Evil 1. No. Sure, there's definitely some inspiration, as can be seen with the overall design, the door transitions, the game being in a mansion. However, unlike the Spencer Mansion, this one is not an intricately designed interconnected maze with many secrets to find. In truth, it's very linear per each part of the mansion. You don't explore each room to find an item to use here that unlocks an item to use there, so on and so on, like you would in Resident Evil. You just go to a room, bust a ghost to get the key to the next room, rinse and repeat. That's pretty much all Luigi's Mansion is, and it's great. Lastly, while it may not seem like it, Luigi's Mansion is a fully rendered 3D environment, unlike at least the original Resident Evil 1, that works with pre-rendered backgrounds. Is it fair to compare the two? In a way, I guess, but not when it comes to gameplay. Though, let me be clear, I'm not talking trash about Resident Evil 1, I adore that game too. With that out of the way, this new hallway has quite a few rooms to go through, therefore a lot of portrait ghosts to encounter. Walking through the back left hallway, strange music could be heard from inside the music room. Could this be the spirit of Melody Pianissima, famed musician said to have lived in the house playing her instruments in the afterlife? Actually, yeah, I'm gonna mention one thing I'm not super into when it comes to this game. The music isn't really amazing. Sure, the main theme is fantastic, but aside from it and its different versions, yeah, none of them really stand out to me. For what it's worth though, my favorite is the whistling one where Luigi goes, I can't whistle for shit. The first ghost of Area 2 is the dancing couple, the Werlindas. They dance around on the spinning platform and you have to spin with them until you can attack. It's at this time that the game starts to take a turn. In the next room, Luigi presses a button that releases a ton of boos, 50 of them to be exact, and their leader, King Boo. The boos serve as the game-wide side quests. Why, yes, it is as painful as my second dentist appointment. Each room in the mansion has one after doing whatever it is you have to do in them, including the ones you've already been to. But there's a catch. You probably won't catch all of them. The Game Boy Horror has a little light at the top that will change color depending on where the boo's hiding within the objects in a room. If you hear the boo laugh, it means it changed locations, and checking the place it used to be in will reveal either a ball with a boo face or a bomb. When you find it, it'll move over to the middle of the room while pretending to be a seal and deliver a short line of dialogue telling you its name. Spoilers, they're all puns. Unlike the regular or portrait ghost, their movement is not affected by the poltergust, so trying to catch a boo becomes a test of your patience more than anything. You have to keep the vacuum on them at all times, while also dodging the furniture and things in the room, while also keeping in mind that at any second, the boo can leave the room and go somewhere else. This in itself wouldn't be too bad until you consider that boos have anywhere from 50 to 300 HP, and they can move into rooms you can't enter yet or empty spaces in the mansion, areas inaccessible by the player. So if a boo you're trying to catch goes into one of those areas, you're done. You will never see that boo again, you lost it. This whole thing gets real tiring real fast because this aspect of the game becomes a forced upon chore rather than an optional challenge. Finish the portrait ghost, find Boo, listen to Boo go on loop, have it leave the room, go out after it, have it go back in the room, go back in the room, have it leave the room again and come back again. Do I sound bitter? Not once have I been able to catch all the boos. I've tried, I've come close, but I've never been able to do it. I looked it up. The reward is just more money. Boos aside, now's when the game really gets going. After getting those ones from the first 6 rooms, on we go to the next room. Though, you do have quite a bit more space to explore at this point. There's something you should have noticed already, right? This game obviously inspired Heavy Rain.
Mario! 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 Mario!
Has anyone ever made that joke before? Before we go on, there's one thing I need to bring attention to. The back of the box is great. Luigi's won a mansion. Luigi's in for a spook-tacular surprise as he creeps into the pitch-dark mansion he won. Jewels, coins, and cash are hidden throughout the mansion, and finding it all will be worth your while. Yeah, I play enough Fire Emblem Heroes to know how valuable PNGs are. There's something else in here. After collecting special medals, you'll be able to shoot fire, water, and ice from your vacuum. You'll have to solve the mansion's many mysteries to catch a gallery of quirky ghouls, such as the fire-belching Mr. Lugs. That reminds me, the gallery. From EGAD's lab, you can go to the gallery, the place where the portrait ghosts are sent to after each big boss. You can take a look at them on the walls, the final mansion you got, there's some weeping angels, and there really isn't much else to do, so let's return to the mansion. Madame Clairvoyant's room is up next, but more on her later. The next room over is one of my favorites. The entire back wall is a mirror, and the ghosts that spawn in here are invisible, so you need to keep track of their reflection. I don't know, this and the projector room later on were always among my favorites because of how creative they are. Catching them all gives you the first of 3 upgrades, the Fire Emblem. Having these items lets you catch elemental ghosts, those little wisp guys from their respective sources, in this case from the fire on the lamp thing. Sucking them up lets you use the poltergust as a flamethrower of sorts. Later on you get 2 more elemental medallions, water and ice. They all have a specific place to use them, and like with the R button, the L button is pressure sensitive, so you can use the poltergust as a lighter, a flamethrower, or shoot fireballs, for example. So what can you use fire on? Maybe that floating candle in the hall. Doing so reveals Shivers the butler, and his biggest fear, fire. He dashes over to the room south of the laundry room, very important note, not the north door, and you know what comes next. Yeah, from now on the game becomes a bit more linear. There's very few instances of exploration or experimentation left. Go to Melody's room, she quizzes you on a song, vacuum. Go to Lux's room, vacuum his food, vacuum him in what was the hardest puzzle in the game for Baby Melly. Get the water medallion in the next room, go to the backyard, pour water in Spike's bowl, vacuum him up, pour water on the seed, which can wither and die by the way. Use the Game Boy Horror to warp to the graveyard, heal up, and fight Bogmire, the second big boss, and honestly, the best of the 3. I know rushing through the ghosts makes the game seem boring, but I promise it's not. Whenever I play this game, I can't help but smile because I love it so much. In fact, I played the entire game over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MelleniumK. If you don't hate my voice, and if you like what I do, please consider following me over there as well. Now, on to Area 3. After returning from the lab, the farthest back door in the first floor opens the way to the backyard, but don't forget to stop and water the plant first. Going down the well answers the biggest lore question in this game. Why aren't we playing as Mario? Because he's dead! Okay, no, he just got portraitified. The next ghost never got the sports almanac, and his room has the boo that historically has given me the most trouble. And once we're done, we can go up to the second floor and into what's arguably my favorite room in the game. Hello? Another robocall. The second floor is a lot smaller. There's only 2 ghosts here. Well, actually, there are... Shh! Not yet. First, we go to the bathroom and... First, we go to the terrifying Nana's room, and she attacks us with yarn balls. Then the pool player ghost back in the first floor attacks us with pool balls. What? Did you think I was going to have one thrown at me? This next room is and always has been my favorite. The whole thing with having to destroy the moon in a way that defies all known laws of physics, it's so cool. You go to the twins' room back at the start, and I'm gonna pull back the curtain just for a little bit. I was gonna do a bit where, to express how much I hate this gimmick, I was gonna burn the children, but it actually worked. Like, that's how you find them inside the boxes. So I guess it all worked out in the end. The chest in this room gives you a shoe. Bless you. Along with the glove from the projector room and the star. Okay, let's talk about Madame Clairvoyant. With the mysterious shoe, the star, the glove with the sweat of the living, along with the red hat with an M on it and the letter that I didn't mention earlier, you can go to Madame Clairvoyant's room. Shining the light on the crystal ball, 5 total times by the way, she reveals that, gasp, these are Mario's belongings. As thanks for the sudden revelation, you... Last ghost of Area 3 is the worst one. It is so bad. Do I even need to explain why this sucks? You have to make Boo Losses hit the unicorn statue's horn and it'll split into a bunch of boos that move way too fast and they're always just out of range of the ice you have to hit them with. And if they're hit with the ice out of bounds, they'll just go back to zooming around. Do you see why this is frustrating? But hey, we got our third big key, we made more portraits for the gallery, and...
¡Me c la madre Luma!
Yeah, so the mansion's been Luma'd for like 3 hours at this point. I called, they didn't give me any information, and they hung up on me. So we're just stuck here in the dark until Luma decides to do their job. I hate Luma so much. I'm not kidding, by the way. I'm not. I've been Luma'd this entire recording session. If only getting unLuma'd were that easy. It's around this point that my memory begins to fade a little bit. So far, I've known what to do, where to go, how to deal with the ghosts, all that. But it's once I get to the 3rd floor that everything becomes a little bit hazy. Past the phone room are 3 nutcracker guys, the Clockwork Soldiers, in a weird toy room. The most important part, though, is now you get access to the roof. And to this day, this remains one of my greatest gaming achievements, as pathetic as it may sound. Did you remember to water the plant, by the way? I didn't. Goes to show I can't take care of a plant in real life or in video games. There's 2 chimneys on the roof, right? One has a treasure, and the other leads to, wait for it, a secret room full of chests with money and a key to the last locked door on the 2nd floor that leads to the optional upside-down ghost, Sue P, who... Oh no. Okay, yeah, fine. Grand scheme of things, really not that impressive. But I discovered it in like 2007. Back then, gaming stuff wasn't that common on the internet, and hell, my house didn't even have internet. I discovered it on my own, so I still feel proud of that. Okay, we're nearly at the end. I know this has been a lot, but I can't help it. Ah, yes, a knight armor room. These guys have good taste in tanks. First to the last ghost is optional, and is just a whack-a-mole thing with this balloon guy hiding in jars. His name is Jarvis. Very clever. Next up is this frozen guy with ice physics and icicles falling on the floor. You heard that right. Last ghost is the famed artist Vincent van Gogh. Cool name, I wonder what it means. His gimmick is also one of the more fun ones. A few of every kind of basic ghost come out of all his paintings, and once they're done with, Vince joins his creations inside the poltergust. At long last, we've made it. Final boss time. If you have enough booze, that is. King Boo is standing in the middle of the room staring at his Mario NFT while Luigi steals the last few bits of treasure. Approaching him is terrifying, and we're warped to the roof where, whoa! A giant Bowser falls from the sky? Bowser? In this game? He materializes metal spike balls out of thin air and throws them at you, and apparently these things are weightless because Luigi can lift them and throw them with ease. These are your primary weapons against Bowser, because when he starts to suck, okay, so Bowser is like a mech, and King Boo is inside it with 500 HP. The floating Bowser head will fly around and attack too, so you really want to keep an eye on those ice blasts and manage your movement until eventually the fight ends. Taking Mario's painting back to the lab, Egad prepares him for a reverse portraitificationizing, or as we in the business call it, and out the other end comes Mario. Luigi cries at the fact that he, the fearful player 2, saved his brother, and the credits roll, at the end showing you the mansion you actually got based on how much money you collected. As you can guess, I never do very well in this.
And that marks the end of Luigi's Mansion. But I'm not done with it just yet. No, there's a few things I want to do before calling it a day.
After the first recording session, I noticed something. I had never done Hidden Mansion mode. In truth, I didn't know what it was. It's sort of a hard mode of this game, though its status as a harder mode is up in the air. For one, enemies do double the damage they would do otherwise, but you do 1.5 times damage, so that's how the game is balanced. The other change I noticed is the more varied basic ghosts around the mansion. Not every room, but enough for my brain to send off some alarms saying, "This ghost isn't supposed to be here, what is this?" Honestly, it was surprisingly refreshing to have the basic rooms be a little different. It really made them all stand out more than they already did. The other thing I wanted to do in this second run is to make sure the plants survived me. And by Sothis, it did. I made sure of it. I made very sure of it.
And with that done, almost 20 years later, which, damn, I can still safely say Luigi's Mansion is one of my favorite games of all time. It's not perfect, but the flaws that it has just adds to the charm and makes me like it all that much. It's difficult to express without sounding sarcastic how much I truly adore this game. Yeah, it may be that dreaded nostalgia talking, but I don't think it is. If anything, I had more fun with these last 2 playthroughs than I did back then. The game that changed my outlook on games. That taught me what they could be versus what I thought they were. One of the games that made me me. It's too bad it's covered in ketchup, though. Oh, that's not ketchup. It's blood!